Using the new Anthem MDX-16 that I recently installed, let's run Arc Genesis in a few audio zones of the house, see what it does, how it works in a non-theater, non-subwoofer type of environment, just in-ceiling ambient type measurement and room EQ and adjustment, see how the process goes and what kind of results we get. All right, before we do the actual calibrations, I just want to show off the rooms, give an idea of what we're dealing with here. This is the kitchen, of course. Speaker number 1 on the left, speaker number 1 way over there on the right. Yeah, we're having some work done on the ceiling here. It's ready for a repaint. You can get a sense of our island, and we're always usually standing around in here, either side or on the ends. So looking to kind of equalize the whole big bubble around the center point of the island. That's the kitchen. The office, I'll go from this side. This room's, I think, on the order of like 11 by 11. We have the 2 speakers on the one side of the room. There's a speaker there, and then the other one over there. I sit over on the right. We got this big, not built in, but specifically made for the room desk. Yeah, excuse all of our mess. Kids stuff over here. Hopefully these are gonna be very short-lived, but we'll see. In any case, the office, this is the office. 2 ceiling speakers, largely serving directly overhead of my wife and I's kind of sitting working space. All right, next up down here in the basement, down our main stairs. We've never really done much with this space yet. It's some storage, it's a play area for the kids. I've been working out down here, pull out that gymnastics mat, hit some kettlebells and stuff like that. But again, we have 2 in-ceiling speakers, one over there by the exterior wall, and directly opposite it is the other speaker pair. These are all the same Triad brand model speakers. So you can hear probably just from the way this is picking up, this is a very hard surface, open area, lots of echo, reverberation, and all of that. And then lastly, my wife's craft room. This is a closed door room, also in our basement. No surprise, 2 speakers, same Triad, round, both in ceiling. This is a really screwy shaped room. It goes around to the side there. We got a closet, there's some angled walls and a soffit, all kinds of complex stuff going on in this space. But we put the audio zone in here so she can play music while she's down here crafting, doing her thing. All right, here we go. Arc Genesis, Zone Audio, Anthem, MDX-16. I have Arc Genesis launched here just to show. If we go to About, we're running the latest version 1.74 of Arc. I'm in my kitchen here. Apologize for maybe some of the quality of the audio. To get started here, we launch Arc. Anthem fanboy here, AVM70 STR Pre. There's our MDX-16. We're going to connect to it. It's downstairs in the rack, wired out to all these zones, and we have the ability to EQ all the zones in the house here. So I see kitchen. We are just going to stick with 5 positions. I don't think there's really a reason to do a whole lot more than that. I'm going to kind of go around the bubble of the center of the island here, basically. So right now I've got the microphone stand and all of that sitting right on the island, middle of the space where our speakers show up at, and then only 2 speakers, no subwoofers, nothing like that here in this room. Let's continue. There's the microphone. So note, I am not using the microphone that came with the MDX. I am using the microphone that came with the AVM70. Arc should know which microphone it is. It should have the right calibration files and all of that. So let's select measuring form position 1 from position 1 and start. Now the nice thing about doing this for zone audio, I guess, is the idea that we don't have 13 speakers and all of these subwoofers, but we can see what our kind of initial response is there. So what I'm going to do from a measuring perspective for the 5 positions now is basically got the center of the island, and we're just going to kind of bubble around. I'll get a couple measurements on the side of the island where we stand, where we're preparing food and stuff like that, and then a couple measurements on the side of the island where we sit. There we are. We have 5 positions measured. Let's go ahead here and review. And we can kind of see our results here. Let's zoom these in a little bit more. So we can see not a whole lot of depth in these speakers. These are some Triad, I forget the model number quite honestly, like 6-inch-ish round in ceiling speakers. You can see they're falling off pretty heavy there around what this might be like around the 80 hertz mark or so. So not a lot of bass, but you know, they're doing what they can, I suppose. I think we have the same capability here. If we go back to adjust the ARC settings, we have our profile. We can select the speakers. We can set the levels and adjust these settings. See, there's quite a bit of boost going on here, not completely out of the question for ARC. And then we have our curves. This is the same ARC Genesis that you have for theaters, for a living room setup, 2-channel setup. So we have the same kind of stuff, right? We have room gains, we have bass boost, we have tilts, and all of that. I think I'm going to leave these curves alone in terms of the target curves. I'm not feeling much of a need to change them. Not really looking to make basically a deeper bass boost. And I don't think there's much of a need as well to do a whole lot of correction out beyond kind of here just the normal 5K. So we can see their subwoofer crossover frequency, if we had one, you know, would have been about 87. So these only go so low. I guess if I really wanted to improve the quality of the audio, a smaller or some form of like an in-ceiling subwoofer probably could have done a lot in the room. Got a little bit of a null here up around 2K. You know, ARC can do what it can do there. Go ahead and continue, and there we can see what we're reporting here. The ARC adjustment with equalization helps us hopefully deal with that null a little bit and pull down some of those other boosts in the 100 to 200 range and kind of through 200 to 5 and so on. And then the speakers just kind of naturally doing what they do further out from there. So now we're going to upload to our device. Upload complete, okay, and we're done. So let's take a look actually at the MDX in the web view. All right, so here we are in the web view. We can see the kitchen zone power is turned on, and now ARC is enabled. And as I flipped over to this, by virtue of I already had this actually pulled up and switched over from Genesis to the web view, ARC, the button itself actually turned on. Reflecting the fact that a configuration was uploaded and applied. So if we look at some of these other zones, craft room, front porch, right, there's no ARC applied. And then here we go. If I want to, right, I could turn it off essentially. And just again, looking through some of the other controls, I don't think we have anything else in the MDX setup related to ARC. It would be nice, I guess, if they told us like when the ARC date was, when it was completed, you know, something like that. But this is what we get. And again, the ability to kind of toggle it on and off. So I'm going to break away here. I'm going to go ahead and run ARC in a couple other zones. I'm going to do my office. I'm going to do my wife's craft room. And I'm going to do like the basement open area where I've been working out lately because I want to play audio to that zone when I'm working out. And we'll take a look through the zones, talk a little bit about the results. I'm not going to show all of the measuring. I'm not going to show the measuring of all of these zones live, and we'll kind of sum it up and wrap things up from there. So there we go, a little tour of 4 of our audio zones in the house, a run through of ARC Genesis in a simple zone audio 2-speaker zone. I did do the ARC calibration on 4 of the zones, the 4 that I shown. Like I said, I'm not going to bother with the porches. It's cold out, it's wintertime and all of that. And I'm not going to bother or mess around with the other 2 spaces right now for the audio either. So out of breath, running around the house, up and down the steps. So let's take a look. How did we do in the other zones? So I think the office actually had some of the best response in the entire house. It has openings, of course, the door behind me going into the office there again, but it's the most kind of enclosed with a little room to breathe. It's a decent dimensional space. A lot of diffusion, of course, going on in there with the big desk and all of that stuff. And we have a really kind of nice resulting target curve. Actually getting some bass and all of that out of both of those speakers. We've got some peaks kind of up outside beyond the correction zone. That's fine, you know, but Anthem, looking at the charts, looking at the graph, the measured versus the kind of the corrected, Arc doing some work here to kind of just smooth everything over, help with some of the nulls in the office around that 2K range. And so yeah, we'll see how that does. The basement, kind of similar story. We've got some nulls up in the 2K range, and Arc kind of looking to just create a fairly steep drop off in the lows here versus more of kind of the arcing, slower drop off of the office, but still pretty flat, and then tapering off actually pretty sharply in the basement once we hit up beyond the 10K range. And then lastly, the craft room, pretty similar response actually. In the craft room is in the open space of the basement. We've got some nulls just north of the 2K range, and basically Arc kind of cleaning up from about 100 up to about 1K, where we're riding squirrely higher than that target curve that it sets. All right, and now the final verdict. So I sat here for a little while, sat here right at the island, airplayed some music to the zone as we usually do. I played a couple of songs off my gym playlist, songs that I listen to a lot, usually when I'm working out, kind of on repeat play. So I'm kind of familiar with what to expect out of some of those, at least from the perspective of earbuds and kind of more intimate listening, I suppose. Earbud, headphone-based listening of those songs. And I can definitively say there is a difference. There is a significant difference between Arc on and Arc off. So I sat here, I played the songs a few times, logged into the web UI of the MDX in the zone. There's a toggle button. You can turn the Arc off, you can turn the Arc on as it was measured and calculated and uploaded and applied to the room. And I have to say, I think I prefer the Arc on. Without Arc, the audio sounds very thick, I would say. It almost sounds maybe a little bit muddled, like the vocals and the different elements of the music, the instruments, whatever, are kind of all competing in the same space a little bit, and it makes it thick. I think thick is a good word to describe like the overdone maybe coming together of all of those sounds. Turn Arc on, everything just kind of like it zips in. It's a little more detailed. It's not thin and weak, but it's more independent. The vocals versus the instruments and the other sounds from each of those songs, you can kind of hear everything a little bit better. There's some more clarity, I would say. There's some more detail. That's a cool improvement. I'll have to do some listening in the other zones, kind of corroborate that finding, or whether I kind of feel that the same result exists in the other zones. I wasn't really expecting Arc to do maybe as much audible stuff as it actually did in the space. That's kind of cool. There's a lot of virtues, I think, to that MDX in terms of how it works, its integration, its setup, its interfaces, and all of that I really liked it and kind of had a preference to the device, even regardless of Arc. But now having ran Arc and listened to it a little bit, that's pretty solid. So what else do you want me to cover with regards to the MDX? I guess at this point, I would give it a pretty solid thumbs up and a very nice blessing. If you're looking for a device to do some multi-zone audio with all of those features and some room EQ capability, even including EQ capability if you had subwoofers in those spaces, that's a pretty slick piece of kit. So yeah, we're gonna have to live with it for a little while, and I'll of course update as well in future live streams and future content if I have any more developed thoughts about the MDX-16. So sound off in the comments. Let me know what you're doing for zone audio, distributed audio in your spaces. This has been a pretty fun one. I'm glad I actually took the time this weekend afternoon here to get this done and run this. We've had the MDX-16 sitting installed and been using it for the better part of maybe a week or two, I think, at this point, maybe a little longer than that, kind of as is. But I'm going to be really curious as well, and I'll update on this in a future live stream or some other conversation. Does anybody else in the house notice? I'm really curious if my wife or my daughter now, the next time they play some music in here, anybody says to me, hey, that sounds different, or hopefully they say, hey, that sounds better. We'll see. So thanks so much for watching. If you would like to support the channel, check out down below. Super thanks, Amazon affiliate links, channel memberships, all of that stuff is there and more. Otherwise, please do all the regular YouTube stuff as well. Hit that like button. Please subscribe if you're a viewer and not a subscriber. Come on back, subscribe, check out all of the regular videos coming here on the channel. I'd very much appreciate it. Share the video, comment, all of that stuff. Thanks so much for watching. Come on back for more home theater discussion, hi-fi discussion, zone audio, and home automation discussion, and more, and fun. Thanks so much.